Hi there, my name is Ayala Connell, and I'm a gluten-free and paleo chef, and I'm also the founder of Simply Paleo Baking Mixes. And today we're having an episode of Simply Paleo in the kitchen with me, and we're going to be making a sandwich bread that's made in the paleo way, which means that it's grain-free, free of any kind of legumes. It's obviously gluten-free, but it's also free of refined sugars and other types of additives that make it a little more inflammatory. So this is a paleo sandwich bread. So let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is make a mix of dry flour, and these are paleo flours. So in here, these are ingredients you can get either at your local grocery store that's more of a healthy grocery store, or online through Amazon or Thrive Market or some other types of resources like that. So in here I have 1 1/4 cups of cassava flour. And then I also have a 1/2 cup of arrowroot powder and a 1/4 cup of ground flax seeds. And in addition to that, I have a teaspoon of sea salt, fine sea salt, and a teaspoon of baking powder. And then once you have all those ingredients, you can just mix it up, make sure that it's fully incorporated. And you can always go on the post that has this video, you'll also see the recipe listed out. And then once it's nice and mixed, you can set it aside. And then we're going to make the liquid mixture. So I have the bowl of an electric mixer, a KitchenAid, but you can also use a handheld electric mixer. But you do need something like that because you really want to froth the eggs. So we've got 6 eggs here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to crack 6 eggs into this bowl. And then what we're going to do is put it in the mixer on high, medium to high. We just want to get it to be frothy, the eggs. And then we're going to add in a couple of other ingredients. We're going to add in some olive oil. We're going to add in some apple cider vinegar. Here I am destroying this egg. But what's very important, once the eggs are frothy and we add the other liquid ingredients, we don't want to mix them. We want to keep them separate so that they don't affect the aerated nature of the frothy eggs, because we want to keep the air pockets in there so it makes a fluffier bread. So here we have 6 eggs, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to set these shells aside, and we're going to take the bowl of the electric mixer. And usually the electric mixer comes with a paddle and a whisk, so you can use the whisk because we're really just beating them in this case. And then after that, we're going to be folding in all the ingredients, so it won't matter so much. And what we're going to do is turn it on medium high, until it gets frothy. It won't take very long. And as that's happening, we're just looking to see that it's getting frothy. Almost there. I can see the bubbles forming. Okay, nice and frothy. That looks frothy, which means there's a lot of bubbles and so on and so forth. All right, so we're going to take the whisk attachment and we're going to set it aside so that it doesn't leak everywhere. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add oil. So we're going to put in about a 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil. I just realized I needed water and I didn't bring any, so hold on one sec. We're going to put in the 1/2 cup of oil. And I'm using extra virgin olive oil because it's definitely a healthier version. We're putting it in, but we're not mixing. We're just adding it in. And now, blooper here. You can hear me, but I'm not in front of the camera. We're going to put in a 1/2 cup of warm water. So it's coming. Okay. Warm water. So a little bit of cold, a little bit of hot, room temperature, a little warm. So we're adding that in. Okay. And then we're going to put in a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Now this is a raw apple cider vinegar. which is the best because it has a lot of culture to it, a lot of probiotics in the mother that sits on the bottom, kind of that cloud. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon, and this is going to react with the baking powder that's in here. Okay, and now what we're going to do, without mixing this, we're going to take the dry ingredients and we're going to very carefully add them in, and then we're going to gently fold. Now we're not going to mix, we're just going to do this sort of a folding action, because what we're wanting to do is not destroy the aerated nature of the eggs and the batter. So we're just carefully folding it in. And while I'm doing this, let me talk about a little bit more of the prep. So I preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I took a bread pan, a bread tin. This one's glass, but you can use a metal one as well. I've seen cast iron ones. And what you want to do is line it with parchment paper. Now that's an important step, because if you don't use a parchment paper and you just grease the bread tin, then what will happen is you'll have a very sort of cakey consistency on the outside of the bread, but if you want it to have that bread consistency where it's sort of cooked and crisp all over, then the parchment paper is really important for that. And so what I do is I put 1 sheet down in the middle and I kind of measure it out and fold it so that it's the right width, and then I do one the width-wise as well. And again, I typically tear off a piece that's too big, and then I measure it out and fold it, and then stick it in there. So you can see you kind of have one this way and this way. And it's good to have it be a little bit longer for when you're filling, so that the sides don't fall in as you're filling the batter into it, pouring the batter in. That can happen for sure. Sometimes I'll even use little office clips or chip clips to just clip them over while I'm filling the bread tin or the bread pan. And then once I have the batter in there, then I will trim the edges, not to be, you know, completely not visible, because remember that the bread is going to rise, and you also want the parchment paper ends to be available so that you can pull it out of the bread pan to put it on the cooling rack after you bake it. Okay, so this is pretty well smooth. You can see this batter. It's beautiful. It's got a little bit of specks from the ground flax seeds. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our bread tin. So let's see here. And make sure that that paper doesn't fall in. And there's different size bread pans. You know, if it's much longer, you're going to find that the bread won't be as tall. If it's shorter in length, then of course you'll have a bit of a taller, fatter bread, right? All right, so now that I have it in here, I can trim the sides a little bit. So I'm just going to trim, but still have it be a little bit elevated, right? Otherwise, the parchment paper can get a little burnt and just sort of gets in the way as well. No big deal. Okay, good. And there you have it. You can see this wonderful batter that's very sort of yellowish in color. We're going to set it aside, and I'll put it in the oven shortly. And then let me show you the bread that I already cooked. Baked. It's beautiful. Okay, so here we've got our sandwich bread that's been on a cooling rack. And you know, when it comes out of the oven, you want to bake it at 350 degrees for about an hour. When you start to smell that smell like it's kind of really stronger, then you can always check it using a bread pin or a cake tin or just like a toothpick. And you want to go down the deepest, sort of the tallest section of the bread and push it in and then pull it out. And if it comes out dry without any batter sort of stuck to it, then you know it's ready. And then you can take it out by the paper, put it on the cooling rack. You can peel off the parchment paper and take it off so that it can really cool on all surfaces. And then when it's cooled for an hour or so, it should be in a good place. Now this bread, you can definitely use it for sandwiches. You can do all kinds of things. If you think you're not going to use it all that quickly and you don't want it to go bad, Once it's fully cooled, you can slice it and then put it in a freezer bag in the freezer, and then just take out 1 or 2 pieces at a time when you're ready to use it. And that's a great way to utilize the bread. So let's cut into it, huh? Let's see here. Oh, it's beautiful. It has a little bit of that sourdough smell because of the apple cider vinegar. Let me show you this bread and how beautiful it is. You can see kind of the crust that looks like sandwich bread crust, and then the inside looks like sandwich bread, and it's so wonderful. All right, let's give it a try, shall we? Now this is great as a sandwich, as I said, and you might decide you want to toast it beforehand, the individual pieces, or just even have a little bit of jam on it, or a little bit of, my favorite being Mediterranean, is a little bit of tahini with a drizzle of honey on it. It's such a yummy treat. All right, let's give it a try. That is so yummy. I mean, it's bread. It's sandwich bread. Yay! And it's nut-free. And I know for a lot of people, as much as they love the idea of nuts, and nuts have a lot of nutritional benefits, for a lot of people, nuts are difficult. They might have sensitivity to them, or they can't have a lot of them. And in typical paleo cuisine, almond flour is everywhere. It is sort of the primary flour for baking. And it really does have a lot of nutritional benefits, but there are so many people in the world that cannot do nuts. And so in my family, we have a lot of nut sensitivities, so I'm definitely a nut-free baker for the most part. So it's great to have a sandwich bread recipe that doesn't use any nuts, but is still paleo. Similar to my Simply Paleo baking mixes that are also paleo but are nut-free, it's always sort of my exploration to search for things that are made without nuts. So that's it. Yummy sandwich bread. I hope you guys try it. It's a pretty simple recipe. It uses ingredients that are pretty common in your kitchen if you're a paleo person. And yeah, hope you make it. And as always, I'd love to hear from you. So any kind of questions or wish list, cravings of things you'd love to learn how to make in more of a paleo way, you can check me out on my blog at www.simplypaleo.com. And also to remind you, every other week on Friday mornings, I do a Facebook Live cooking demonstration. So I hope you view it, and hope to hear from you soon. Thanks so much.